Hi there, welcome to IELTS PTE Success. Today we're going to be speaking about the before exam instructions to remember before you go and give your IELTS exam. And if you like our video, please follow us on our YouTube channel or on Instagram for regular updates and tips and tricks. You can also visit us on IELTSPTSuccess.com for reading our blogs or even if you want to sign up for a class. And in case you have any queries, feel free to write to us on IELTSPTSuccess at gmail.com. So let's move on to the first section, that's the listening section. Now, as most of you know, that the listening section lasts for about 30 minutes of recording. And if you're writing the written paper, then you get 10 minutes at the end to write your answers. And if you're doing the online version of the IELTS, you get a few seconds after each section to enter your answers and cross check and then move forward. So, what are the last minute instructions that we need to remember? Always look at the question to predict what you are going to hear before the recording plays. For example, supposing an answer needs to be given as a name or a number or a date, read those questions before the recording plays so you know what kind of an answer are you looking for. There's no negative marking, so attempt every question. But in case if you miss a question, leave it at that point, go forward, attempt the rest of the questions, and then come back in the end and answer it. Because there's no negative marking, you can always remember something from your memory and write an answer, but don't leave it empty. Always anticipate what the speaker might say next so that you know what you're looking for. And the most important part is your spellings and grammar have to be correct. If you make spelling mistakes, you will lose the entire mark of that question. And while transferring your answers, be very, very careful that you write the correct answer next to the correct question number. Don't write answer number 5 next to question number 6. You will mess up your entire sequence and your listening test will go for a toss. So keep these instructions in mind before you start your exam. Now let's move on to the reading test. Now, as we know, the reading test is 1 hour long and it is divided across 3 sections. So you must always read the question before you start reading the passage so that you know what you're looking for. You always have to know whether the question is expecting you to find headings or match the summary or fill in the blanks and then start reading the passage. One tip to manage your time is maybe do each section in approximately 20 minutes so you get everything done. And the moment you finish a question, write your answers on the answer sheet if you're doing a written version of the test. And while you're doing the online version, make sure that you answer each question as you go by and don't leave anything empty. In case a question is taking longer, don't waste time on it, move to the next, come back later and answer it. Always look at headings and subtitles to get a general idea of what could be there in that passage, and so that you don't have to maybe read the whole passage, you just get a general idea. This is where skimming and scanning as techniques come in handy. They are most essential, but they're not your key to answering the whole reading test. You have to keep time aside to answer some questions by reading the whole passage. Again, keep maximum time for the last section. It's the longest, so it takes the maximum time, and you might have to keep reading each part of that passage to answer certain questions. Correct spellings and grammar, again, very, very important. If you get the spellings wrong, you will lose a mark. Transfer answers after each section so that you don't panic towards the end, because unlike the listening test, you don't have time to transfer your answers at the end. And if you don't know the meaning of a word, look at the rest of the sentence and try to understand it. Don't waste too much time trying to understand every single word. You don't have time for that in the test. Get a general idea. If you can't, move on to the next, come back later and answer it. So now we move on to the next section, which is our speaking test. The speaking test, as most of you know, that happens on a separate day from the listening, reading, and writing, and it happens face to face with an examiner. So you are mostly going to be meeting this person for the first time, so you are bound to be nervous. So try to be a little relaxed. Try not to be extremely nervous that you're unable to answer. Be friendly. Put a smile, greet the examiner and just try to compose yourself and don't be too nervous. Best way to practice, record your answers. We all have smartphones, you have a recording app, or you can always record using the WhatsApp audio button and just share it with somebody, like some family member or a friend who can listen to your voice. And you will then realize where you make mistakes or where you need to improve on your speech. Don't use unfamiliar or long words if you don't know their meaning. Keep your sentences crisp and simple so that shows you have enough fluency. Practice by making small notes of whatever you want to speak so that you get rid of hesitation. In case you don't understand a question, you can always ask the examiner to repeat the question. You can just tell them that I didn't understand. Could you repeat the question or could you please rephrase the question? Don't do this for every section, only in places where you genuinely didn't understand the question. Always speak in complete sentences. Don't give one word answers. Like if they ask you, do you like to play sports? Don't just go say yeah or yes. You should always answer in a complete sentence saying, yes, I enjoy playing various sports. Don't memorize any answers. Familiarize yourself with topics, but don't memorize answers because the examiners will know and then in turn they will ask you even more difficult questions. So now let's move on to the last and probably the toughest section of the exam, the writing section. Though the writing section happens after your listening and reading test, but it is probably the most difficult test because it requires you to write for approximately an hour, or in case of the online version of the IELTS, you have to type for an hour. Now, the first part of the task is a letter in the general training paper and a report in the academic paper. The second part is always an essay. The essay carries double the amount of marks of this first task, but always answer every question and answer every part of the given question. Don't answer only parts that you would want to answer because, in that case, you will not fulfill your task response and you will not get full marks. Always plan your answers before writing. So spend 5 minutes before you do task one so that you can write down some bullet points and refer to them while you're writing. And the same goes for writing task two. Always plan before you start writing your essay. Now you must write the minimum word count for obvious reasons, or you will not get complete marks for it. But don't go beyond a maximum of 50 words of exceeding the limit. So don't write beyond 200 words in task one and beyond 300 words in task two. Spellings, punctuation, and grammar are extremely important. This is where they test your vocabulary, your grammar, your fluency, all of that. And in case you don't, if you miss out on putting a full stop at the correct place or don't start your sentences with a capital letter, these are all signs of lack of fluency and lack of understanding of the language, and you will lose marks. You don't need to write answers in bullet points or use short forms. For example, always write A and D as and don't write the and symbol. Short forms are not appreciated in the exam. Always write complete sentences, use linking words to show a smooth flow. And in task two, give a balanced point of view of your answers, giving pros and cons of both the questions. And whenever you are expected to state your opinion, support it with examples. Very, very important. How do you make somebody understand? Give them an example. This will show to the examiner that you have understood the question and you know how to answer it. Avoid memorizing any answers. For example, don't memorize letters or essays. Yes, familiarize yourself with topics, but don't memorize the answers. They will know, and accordingly, you will lose marks. And whenever you're writing your answers, please space them in paragraphs. Leave a line. This will avoid untidiness and gives the examiner ease of access to read so that they can understand your answer and they know that this person knows how to write answers by spacing it out in paragraphs. So that's about it when it comes to our last minute instructions. And in case you feel you want to practice with us or you want to improve on your reading, writing, speaking, or listening skills, please reach out to us on IELTS PT Success and we will be happy to help you. That's it from us. Thank you for watching. See you soon.